Well, my secret here is meetings. Quality meetings. Making sure that, you're having the meeting for a specific person, have an agenda, have the right people there, use them as these communication pieces. For me, in the startup world, communication is the number one thing I look for in any engineer, any person I work with. You've got to be a good communicator. So it's not just a one way of here's what you've got to build. There's questions and you can get value from shared understanding. Getting the quality out of those meetings and not having to cover up bad process with extra meetings just because you don't know what you're doing.
Welcome to Software Leaders UNCENSORED, where tech leaders drop the filters and just tell it like it is. I'm your host, Steve Taplin, a serial technology entrepreneur, published author of Fail Hard, Win Big, and CEO of Sonatify Technology, an AI-first software development firm with resources both in the U.S. and Latin America. Today, I am joined by Ben Ede, who's been an engineer, a multi-time CTO, a founder and advisor, and now engineering director at Envoy. We're going to have some fun here. Ben, welcome.
Thanks, Steve. I am very excited to be here.
Now, you recently made a career move 4 or 5 months ago to Envoy. Tell us about your career move, Envoy, and what you're doing now.
Sure thing, yeah. So give you a bit of backstory about myself. My usual thing is to join early stage startups, sort of, seed, maybe Series A, and join like a team of engineers who need like a strong leader to help build the tech, the processes and the culture of the company. And I was looking for the same thing, but I found a perfect fit, but I wasn't excited about the role. I turned them down. And I did some sort of soul searching, thinking, like, am I burnt out? What am I missing? And I realized the last time I really was having fun was at a logistics startup called 7 Bridges that I helped found. Been there 7 years and built it up to a size where I had some engineering managers, had a team of engineers, and I was having so much fun because there was so much to do, so much to try and give away. And the moment I gave something away, something else would land on my lap. I realized this kind of, maybe I should start looking at larger companies. The sort of series of lucky events landed me having a chat with someone at Envoy who recommended me for the engineering director role, and here I am.
So, and I'm glad you brought that up. Is this something you applied for online? You knew somebody? Certainly in the engineering world, there's lots of job changes, and I know our audience always likes to hear strategies and approaches on how engineering leaders are getting their roles.
This one actually came via a recruitment consultant.
Okay.
I think I spoke to them and just said, like, I don't know if I want to do another small startup, but I don't know, where in a larger company, where do I land? Because I've been a CTO, but a CTO of, last company was 12 people. So that's just like an engineering manager. So I thought, go and speak with a few companies and see where I fit in the larger orgs. And so I had a chat with Envoy, recruiting an engineering manager. And at the end of the interview, the recruiter said, look, to be honest, you seem great, but you also seem far too experienced for this role. Like, do you want to continue? And I basically just told him the story that I've told you, what that led me to here. And
I think it's the British accent that makes you come off more. Everything just sounds better and more intelligent with the accent.
Well, yeah, I'm not sure about more intelligent, but maybe. But so he basically recommended me to the CTO and just said that I think this guy could be, he's too strong for any, but what do you think? And they basically opened up a position for me, which was kind of awesome because I think there was a Ben-sized hole at Envoy that needed to be put in place.
All right, so tell our listeners, what does Envoy do?
So most people probably know us as a visitation management for businesses. So you'll go in, sign in at a kiosk, get a badge and get access to the company you're visiting. But we also do a lot more. We do workplace management as well, screens and emergency notification services. There's probably a few others that I'm forgetting. But that's sort of the general gist of what we do.
Gotcha. Excellent. And are you guys on-site model? You're in San Francisco, the heart of the software development world?
Yes, yeah. Being like a visitation management and workplace company, it'd be crazy if we were all remote. So we're in 4 days a week in office.
Gotcha. And is that a company-wide thing?
Yes. Yeah. So we've got like multiple offices around the country and the world, and everyone is.
Excellent. All right. Well, this is a software engineering show. Tell me, how many engineers do you have on your team? Where are they located? What type of work model do you go by?
Oh, that's a good point. I think I've got 18 underneath me. I've got 3 teams. Currently hiring for an infrastructure engineering manager. Just I'd like to put that out there. So if you want to come and work with me, give me a shout. But yeah, so we're basically 3 teams. I leave the engineering managers to run their own show, but we're sprint based and sort of the usual rituals around that.
And is your engineering team all on site?
Oh yeah, sorry, I didn't answer that question. Almost. We have 1 or 2 contractors and I'd say a grandfathered in remote employee.
Okay, gotcha. And that's kind of par for the course in the software world, right?
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, how do you do things different, man? Software is complex. This little thing called AI came out. Everyone said, great, our team should have 10 million% productivity. And what's your general leadership approach for leading software engineering teams?
Definitely AI forward these days. We're sort of trying to move on this arc of AI enablement where people are just, going to Claude Code or ChatGPT and getting it to sort of help you break down things, to sort of AI enabled coding where it's doing more coding, to full sort of orchestration where, the AI is maybe running in 5 tabs and doing different pieces of work for you. So if you're getting to conduct a symphony of AI bots to increase performance. We're not there yet. There's sort of quality's probably not ready, but as we move towards that, that's the sort of dream for us.
And one thing I think we haven't figured out is the AI hallucinations, and how it can just go off in directions without the right logic behind it. And
Yeah.
we've seen it be a great tool for helping engineers. I'm not sure in my lifetime it's going to replace engineers. What do you think?
I really flip-flop on this issue. Kind of leaning towards, I think we're on this curve where the increases are getting smaller and smaller. And I don't think we're going to reach there anytime soon. I know people have been saying like general AI in 3 years. I am a bit skeptical of that. I do think that we're going to get really good, a lot better at prompting. I don't know if you still actively code, but like the journey from
Actually, I'm a tech entrepreneur and CEO, but I'm not a coder. But
okay.
I'm technical enough to be dangerous.
The best type, yeah. So yeah, 2 years ago, everyone was just prompting really basic things, and then there was like the prompt chaining came along, and like people started to really delve into how to get the best out of prompts. And I think there's some studies that say like engineers are far better at getting the best out of AI for coding than just the newbie vibe coder, because we still think in that kind of structured approach. And the tools are going to improve. The LLMs are definitely going to improve as well. And there's going to be, a really, continued increase in productivity over the next few years. But I do think it will cap off where you'll still need engineers who know what they're doing and understand the core concepts to sort of shepherd this army of AI in the right direction.
Awesome. All right. So let's talk about, I know you have your opinion on what true CI/CD means and how to use that for measurable change. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so this started, it was kind of handed to me when I first joined, and I was just told, get tests, make more tests, get it working. And then when you delve into it, the problem really was, one, the teams over the years have been given a lot of autonomy, which not necessarily a bad thing, but they'd all started to do their own thing. And when you ask them what CI or CD means, you just get different answers. There was no real common consensus. For me, step one was, let's define what that means. Like, what for us, this is when you create a branch, you write some code, you run some tests against it, and then you merge that branch in to trunk. And that means trunk is always deployable, ready to go. But as I was kind of exploring this concept, I realized that really what we want to get to is not only just a shared understanding of what CI/CD is, it's actually getting the confidence to deploy at any time because we've followed a rigorous process, and we know that when the code's in trunk, it's ready to be deployed to production because all the steps beforehand have been completed. And that means that we can get to a point where we can actually remove the decision of when to deploy from engineering and actually make it more of a business decision. So it's about having the confidence to deploy and giving that to the product team or the go-to-market team or whatever the feature is for, and removing it from the stress levels of the engineer.
And so tell me about successes and failures with that approach.
It's been a lot slower than expected. I like to say that we hired a principal engineer who's been working on this. He came in as an architect, has actually just been helping the teams transform themselves into like true CI/CD process. So I don't want to steal his thunder, like give him credit. And it's still too early. I don't have any hard metrics just to say, yes, productivity. But it actually is not really about productivity. It's about confidence and reliability. But we are seeing early signals that this is actually improving. And the teams, coupled with that, getting better at ticket sizing and getting the whole repeatable process around this, that the signals are there that it's good, but it's not like with only 2 teams, it's not really measurable just yet.
Gotcha. I mean, I love what you're saying in concept, but normally business requirements are being pushed so hard and engineering teams always trying to catch up on the backlogs, and it could be challenging to not do that final push and have product or the business side do it.
As in the push to release.
Yes.
I mean, we're going to get to the point where it's going to be released on production, but behind a flag, and then it really is just, it's a boop of a button for a business leader. And I think it depends on where this is needed, like who is the right decision holder. Because a lot of releases, we try and get smaller and smaller PRs. We don't want a fully fledged feature going up in one go, because that is honestly a nightmare and just leads to so many bugs. But if you can keep things small and iterate fast, then at some point, like most of the time, it'll just be an engineer going, yep, that's good to go. But then the final sort of gating on the feature, that definitely can be product manager doing this. We're a bit short of product managers as well, also hiring for those. If you know anyone good, give me a shout. I'm going to carry on saying this throughout the show.
Awesome. All right, Ben, before the show, we were talking about strategies for having improvements in delivery, quality, and alignment. And you were saying how you're always pushing to break down work into smaller ticket sizes. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, sure. So I think over the years, I've seen the same thing, that engineers will end up with larger tickets than they need because they don't know how to break them down. Not in terms of technical ability, but because they don't understand exactly what they're doing. And that leads to longer delivery times as well. So a previous company I worked at, when I joined, ticket sizes were between 8 and 13 points. So in that company, 8 points should mean roughly like 4 days of work. And I know like ticket sizes do not equate time, but just sort of for this demonstration, like
Sure.
I'm just going to go with that. And the reality was these 8 point and 13 points were taking multiple 2-week sprints to complete. So they were just dragging on and on and on. So what I ended up doing was just tweaking a couple of processes. We had like, software development lifecycle in place, but there wasn't communication points along the way. And the tickets that were cut for the sprint was done at the last minute, and people were still asking questions in the grooming, and felt a bit chaotic. What I did is when the product spec is created, it's presented to the engineering team. And this is like communication point number 1. You get to ask questions of the product manager and any stakeholders who are available, and you get to understand what we're trying to achieve. Then we take it away, do a tech spec, tech design on it, and that would be like 2 engineers. And we do the same thing. At the end, when the engineers have designed the solution and they've got some sort of t-shirt sized tickets, have another meeting with all the engineers on the team and communicate what we're trying to build, why we're building it, and how we're building it. And then allow the other engineers to ask questions and critique it and suggest things. And you end up with this like shared understanding and buy-in from the engineers because they feel that their voice has been heard. And then when you get to actually cutting the tickets in a sprint and the grooming, so you've got the rough t-shirt size, but all the engineers understand now what we're trying to build. So when this ticket comes along and it's a medium ticket size, and people say, well, that's going to be 8 points. But then they know the inner workings, and they can actually say, well, okay, well, this could be a database ticket, this could be a front end ticket. These are some things that we need to do. Or we also need to do that because I understand this other feature's coming. So then you get this like great sort of group mentality of like understanding what you need to do, how you can break it down. And I did this process with the company, and we ended up going from 8 to 13 points to 2 to 3. Like we never had a ticket bigger than 3. And then the reflex came in when we did occasionally have like a 5-pointer. We'd know we'd have to split it down. And improves like delivery and quality. The alignment is the meetings, but because the tickets are smaller, they're less complicated. They're bite-sized pieces that you can release as you go along. So quality improves. It's not these huge PRs from the 8-point tickets. It's really
how do you
micro-sized.
keep the business side in line with, I'm going to take your monster ticket that you just put over that on your scale would probably be 300 points, and I got to break it down into 3 points. How are you getting business alignment around this strategy?
Because we have the traceability back from the product design, assuming the product design is correct, and that's where your stakeholders are involved the most. We're sort of taking that and running with it, so you can trace back from the tickets that are actually in the sprint back to the tech design, which then addresses all the features in the product spec. So there's sort of backwards and forwards flow there, which just aids communication all around.
Gotcha. So you're able to justify it. And hey, let me take this big thing and break it down into manageable bites so my team can deliver successfully. And trust me here.
Exactly. Well, yeah. And the trust is, I appreciate the trust, but when you're delivering faster as well, because things are less complicated, you're not hitting with the unknowns, which are causing the largest tickets to drag out, your productivity improve. Actually, as part of trying to find my new job, I looked at the stats on productivity, and over that time we doubled productivity, and that was before AI came along and actually improved things further. So it was a really big leap in the team's productivity and confidence and happiness, because they felt productive. They didn't feel there was me going, why is this not done yet? They were just getting their little endorphin hits every time they finished the ticket. So it was great.
So engineering metrics like productivity, what have you seen the best way to track that and have real results that the engineering and business side can agree on?
Kind of by default, I go to Dora metrics. I honestly,
which is a good default.
Yeah, I mean, go with what you know. But I'm not a massive fan of them. The company sizes I've managed before, apart from Seven Bridges, which got pretty big, and now at Envoy, I've not seen any use in them, because it's just, for previous company, 12 people, it's just noise at that level. When you've got we've got 6 or 7 teams here, at that company-wide level, you are getting some signals like the mean time to resolution and things like that. That does help. And, PR cycle time is really important as well, just to make sure that people aren't, what if the PR cycle time is massive? Why is that? Are you creating big PRs? No one reviewing it? It gives you sort of indications of problem areas rather than, I'm still not 100% comfortable using them kind of blindly. I find that they're a good indicator of somewhere where there might be a problem, and then you can delve into it. But I still prefer the old human communication.
I gotcha. All right, let's switch gears.
Okay.
You were telling me about the Run, Grow, Transform framework that you like to use. Let's talk about that.
Okay, yeah. So we do quarterly planning here, and when doing that, I just like to split the groups of work into these 3 buckets. So Run is, just keep the lights on, make sure things are still working, fix any niggles, that sort of thing, just any odd issues. The Grow is kind of the how do we expand on what we have, improve things? Are there features we need to add to existing stuff? And then the Transform is that's like your bet. You get one per quarter max, but it's like, what can we do to shift the ground under our feet to the next level? It's a foundational things. Is it a re-architectural piece or laying the groundwork for that? Obviously, you can't do a whole re-architectural piece of work in one, but like, what can you do to really think for the future? So that should be like max 10% of your time, and balance the other two, 45% each. If like there's too much in the run, that means you've got other issues going on where you're spending too much time just to keep your current system going. So there's some, tech debt there or something like that. Yeah, that's sort of basically how I split things into the quarterly plans.
I like it. So you've been involved in multiple different companies, many different engineering teams. You've also been a founder. Where have you seen engineering teams screw up and maybe have too much in the transform category and just be out of whack? Where I wrote a whole book about entrepreneurial failures and how I always learn from them. What are some engineering failures you've seen that you've learned from that have molded you into your current philosophies?
I can't think of one off the top of my head, but there's definitely been like not failures, but there's been me kind of trying to rebuff the eagerness of an engineering team to re-architect something too early or build for the future. Because engineers love solving problems, and I still remember being an IC and loving like getting the thrill of solving a problem. And as a young engineer, I built way too many things, trying to predict the future, and then finding out that actually the future's just changed and everything I thought was going to happen hasn't happened. I've just wasted my time. So like, those are kind of very early on engineering mistakes I made. Just getting too excited about the future and not realizing that it's a choose your own adventure path.
That's definitely a good lesson learned. All right. So you were brought in Envoy, existing team, a company well-established company. There had to be some tech debt that you're running into that you have to deal with. And whether, not specific to Envoy, but your approach in general, how are you handling tech debt when you're coming into a new environment?
Okay. Yeah, I love thinking about tech debt, to be honest, because it's this long going relationship I've had with it. As an early IC, everything I did had to be like really polished, code had to be beautiful, and like I already just said, like develop for the future and kind of predictive. And so I'd never wanted tech debt. But as I've become more experienced as an IC and then as a manager, that this relationship has changed from hatred to mutual respect to now this understanding that it is not a bad thing. It's what you do with it that matters. So, go back to the engineers of solving problems. They love tidying things up as well. And it's like in their instinct to fix something that's wrong with the code base. And I love that. And, I still have that urge and I still have to fight that urge. But you've got to understand that you can't fix everything and you have to, apply some kind of methodology to when you adopt it or when you attack the tech debt. So one of the strategies I use is like when we're designing a new feature in the tech design stage, we can talk about like, are we touching areas where there's tech debt? Is there something we can incorporate? Like for free is the best, but like with minimal extra overhead to actually attack some of this tech debt, incorporate into the project and get rid of it. It's got to be low risk. It can't be, well, we're building a feature on top of this clunky architecture. I could just re-architect this as well. It's like, well, no. Well, what is the risk of that? Is it touching other things? Yeah, it's going to blow up. No. But so that's like one way of getting rid of some of the annoying but lightweight tech debt. And the other technique is to accept it. Like we can say like, yes, this is a problem. What is the risk attached to this? Is that risk worth slowing down feature development? Or can we just accept that for the time being, it's clunky, but it works and there's no security or scaling risks attached? And, at some point, one of two of those will come about and we'll have to attack it. But now is not the time.
Gotcha. So you've learned to take a more proactive approach to tech debt versus just reactive? Oh my gosh, it's there, I have to do it. Really evaluating it and really weighing out the pros and cons.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and making sure libraries are up to date is important. But again, there's the risk attached to it. If there's a critical CVE against it, then we've got to do that straight away within 24 hours. But if there's medium risk attached to it, okay, well let's look into the risks. We've recently just risk assessed all our repositories. We have like over 400 repositories on the go. But if we got a high CVE, we would just attack all of them across all the repositories. But they're not all high risk. Some of them are not even exposed to the internet, let alone the customer. So why are we scrambling to fix this thing that is just an internal, local only issue? So it's just, catching a risk process, making sure that you're doing the right things at the right time is like really important, can help detect that.
I like it. All right. So how do you keep engineering, product, business all aligned without endless meetings after meetings after meetings after meetings?
Well, my secret here is meetings. But yeah.
More meetings.
Quality meetings.
Okay.
So going back to the process I talked about, reducing the ticket size, it's having meetings get like people or companies get into that state where there's just meeting after meeting, but like they're not having quality meetings. Making sure that you're having the meeting for a specific person, have an agenda, have the right people there, and use them as these communication pieces. Like I keep on saying communication because for me in the startup world, communication is the number one thing I look for in any engineer, any person I work with. You've got to be a good communicator. So having these meetings that are high value, well communicated pieces like the prod spec meeting where we get to feedback. It's not just a one way of here's what you've got to build. There's questions and you can get value from shared understanding. So it's that sort of process, just having certain meetings, well-defined structure, getting the quality out of those meetings and not having to cover up bad process with extra meetings just because you don't know what you're doing.
So with Envoy and you guys in office 4 days a week, do you think that gives you the advantage of having more quality meetings and less meetings versus being a fully remote world where you have to not getting the same quality touch points as the in-person?
For me, yes. I know that lots of companies have put in mitigating factors and ways of trying to get the same value as if you're in person. At Seven Bridges, I was remote. So I was a remote CTO. The rest of the company was in London because, fun fact, I stupidly started the company, then moved to America, and that company then took off. And I was like, okay, so now I'm going to be a CTO in a foreign country. So I felt very frustrated as in my 7 years there as a remote person. We had remote engineers in Europe as well, so it wasn't like solely just London. But what I found is I'd fly over twice a year, and in the week that I was in office, I would get about a month's worth of work out of myself and my engineers. There's what I always use as an example. I was chatting with my infrastructure engineer, Chris, and he mentioned something he'd been struggling with and was just trying to think of a way to do it. And I was then having lunch and I overheard our data scientist speaking about almost the same problem. And I just said, you two should speak together. And they sat down and they solved the problem within 30 minutes. And both of them had been scratching their heads independently. And so being in office, you don't have to arrange this 30-minute meeting for what literally took 30 seconds conversation with both people. You can just pass by someone's desk if they're not busy, say, hey, can you just look at this because I heard about this over there, and it's done. And it's, for me, it's just so much easier to do that. The being remote, it introduces this layer of formality which slows you down.
That's true, and I should create a product because I haven't found anything that beats whiteboarding in person. I haven't found any virtual remote whiteboarding to be anywhere near effective as a good in-person whiteboard session.
Yeah, definitely. I'm a big post-it note person. Well, so I'm a post-it note person over whiteboard. I like post-it on the wall. Me and one of my co-founders, Stuart, once did come up with a crazy idea to create a robot which would see my wall with my post-it notes, and it would take another post-it note, write down what's on my wall, and put it on Stuart's wall, because we were living in different cities at the time, and we did seriously consider doing that as a startup idea. So
I love it. I love it. Ben, we are out of time. Thank you for getting uncensored with us today. Appreciate you sharing your knowledge, your thought process, the lessons learned that you've had being an engineering leader throughout your career. Before we wrap, what's your advice for today's tech leaders out there trying to build, scale, or even just survive?
My tip: ask stupid questions. So there's not enough stupid questions are asked in meetings, and that it's a huge time saver. People don't want to ask these questions because they don't want to look stupid. But when you're confident and you ask these stupid questions, you can see people go, "Ah, thank you for asking that, because I didn't want to ask it myself." It speeds up the world.
I love that answer. And in fact, I use that approach all the time. And sometimes you get people that'll be like, well, why are you even asking that? And I've kind of learned, I take the approach, please educate me. Just, confidently, hey, I don't know this. Call me stupid, whatever you want, but educate me. And I couldn't agree more, whether it's engineering or business or anything else, having the confidence to ask those stupid questions can help you go a long way.
Yeah.
Awesome, Ben. Thank you so much. Appreciate you joining us. That's it for this episode of Software Leaders Uncensored. I'm Steve Taplin. If you enjoyed the show, go ahead and subscribe. Remember to fail hard, win big, and always build what matters. See you next time. That's a wrap. Another great episode of Software Leaders Uncensored. Thank you guys so much for listening. I really appreciate it. It's a lot of fun doing this show. I love talking with great tech leaders. As a side note, if you're interested, check out my new book, Fail Hard, Win Big. This is the story of how I built 30 companies, failed on 20, and turned 10 into multi-million-dollar wins. The common thread with all of them was custom software. Also, if you need software development help out there, my company, Sonatify Technology, we deliver world-class software development engineers out of Latin America. We have a solid track record of helping companies launch better products and faster. Thanks again for listening. Appreciate it and appreciate you.